Invertigo is an inverted boomerang coaster at Kings Island, and to be honest, I have no clue how this ride is enjoyable. This was built during a time period when Vekoma was making rough sit-down boomerangs and rough inverted coasters, so you would think combining these two things would be a nightmare scenario, but somehow, two negatives make a positive. This ride is solid, but I am worried it may not be around for much longer. I'll explain why in this review. In the mid-1980s, Vekoma developed the Boomerang model. This was an ultra-compact looping coaster where guests would travel backwards up a lift hill and be released forwards into a layout with a cobra roll and vertical loop. They would then hit a second lift hill, and this time, they would be released backwards into the layout they just experienced, hence the name Boomerang. While the rides were not particularly smooth, they were super intense and highly marketable, so nearly 5 dozen installations were added to parks around the globe. In 1994, Vekoma unveiled the Suspended Looping Coaster, or SLC. This was a compact inverted coaster designed to be cloned. It featured 5 inversions and a tightly wound layout. Parks liked the price point and elements, which is why there are over 40 worldwide. However, the rides were extremely rough. The older SLCs are among the worst coasters in existence. Shortly thereafter, Vekoma decided to offer an inverted boomerang called the Invertigo model. The first installation was supposed to open at Liseberg in 1996, but it was delayed until 1997. The ride was originally meant to have an LIM-LSM lift hill, but difficulties with the technology led to the ride having a standard chain lift like the regular boomerangs. Paramount purchased 2 Invertigo coasters. One went to California's Great America in 1998, and it would have the same name as the ride model. Another went to Kings Island in 1999, and it would be named Face Off. The fourth and final Invertigo went to Six Flags America in 1999, where it was known as Two Face the Flip Side. 3 of the 4 installations would be relocated. Liseberg removed Hangover in 2002. The prototype was in storage at Aloof Fun Park for a few years. Then it was assembled briefly at Summerland City's Tornado, and it has run as Triops at Bagatelle ever since 2012. Two Face suffered an accident in late 2007. Six Flags America then sold the coaster to Movieland Park in Italy, and the coaster has run as Diabolic ever since. By 2010, Cedar Fair owned the Paramount parks. They closed Great America's Invertigo and relocated across the country to another one of their properties in Dorney Park. The ride ran as Stinger from 2012 to 2017, but it has since been scrapped. The only Invertigo that has stayed in its original home is the one at Kings Island, but it has been renamed. Originally, the ride was named after the legendary 1997 film named Face Off. If you have not seen this action movie, stop what you're doing and go watch it. It is glorious. John Travolta quite literally takes the face off of Nicolas Cage and tries to act like him. Then Nicolas Cage has to act like John Travolta, and the results are priceless. But after Cedar Fair purchased the Paramount parks, they removed any movie references, so Face Off was renamed Invertigo for the 2008 season. Now I am worried about this ride's long-term prospects though. It has 3 strikes against it. 1, it is the most unreliable coaster at Kings Island. The park does a pretty good job keeping this ride operational, but it is more prone to downtime than their other coasters, and mechanical issues ultimately doom Stinger at Dorney Park. 2, the Invertigo model is no longer listed on the Vekoma website, so the Dutch manufacturer may not readily have parts available for it anymore. This issue has been mitigated somewhat with Stinger's closure, as that ride has become cannibalized to keep Invertigo running. 3, this is the lowest capacity adult coaster at Kings Island. While all the others run multiple trains, Invertigo can only run one due to its shuttle design. So we will have to wait and see how much longer this coaster will operate for, but I imagine it'll be gone within the next 5 to 10 years. The ride does make a very nice first impression though. The ride is located towards the front of the park in the action zone, so the 2 spikes are highly visible as you enter the park. Then the ride's current paint scheme is much nicer than the original one. The ride used to have yellow track and red supports. Now it features aqua blue track with blue supports. The queue line is very plain though, which is why you will not want to get stuck in it. The train does seat a good amount of people at least, as it holds 28 riders. so lines are typically not worse than a half hour unless you visit on a weekend. If the lines are long, there are a few ways to avoid crowds. 1. You can head there towards the end of the day. The line really dies down by the evening. 2. You can use the park's fast lane to skip the line pass. This is a pricey upcharge, but it will save you time in all their major coasters. Once you reach the station, you can select a row, and the train setup is pretty unique. It is comprised of 7 cars. Each car is pairs of riders sitting back to back, which is why the coaster was originally named Face Off. On standard Boomerangs, I like the back row best, but on the Invertigo model, I have a slight preference for the front row. You have that unobstructed view, plus better positive Gs. The restraints are identical to an SLC, which is not the most ideal setup. You have an over-the-shoulder harness with these bulky foam pads adjacent to your ears. They are in a prime spot for headbanging. The entry and exit of the Cobra Roll can cause some light headbanging, but it's not nearly as jolty as traditional Boomerangs or the SLCs. However, this headbanging does occur during a rather intense moment, so it can cause a minor headache. Thankfully, the rest of the ride tracks fairly well. Once dispatched, you are pulled up the 13-story tall lift hill. You ascend it at a much brisker pace than traditional Boomerangs. You slow down and pause briefly at the top. Then you're released. It's pretty cool seeing the mechanism if you're in the backwards facing rear row. And that initial drop is quite good. The surprise start gives a bit of a free fall sensation. Then you build up considerable speed for the station flyby. Then you charge into the Cobra Roll. Those up front get heavy positive Gs going into it. I routinely gray out here. Then the snap on Inversion 1 is very abrupt. It's milder, but still fairly wild in the back. The opposite happens on the exit of the Cobra Roll. The back is absolutely yanked downwards. Then comes a vertical loop. Everyone will get strong positive Gs, but I think it's a bit more intense up front because you're really pushed in the element. This is another part where I typically start to lose my vision. Then you ascend the second lift hill. There's a noticeable slam as you engage the catch car. Then you continue all the way up to the top, getting a rare chance to catch your breath on this ride. The visual is really neat in the front row. And then you're released. Those in front get a familiar freefall sensation as they're pulled backwards. I find this drop noticeably less intense than the first elsewhere in the train though. The vertical loop is even more intense this time around. The Gs are incredible. They try to rip your legs off, and the train really whips through it. I felt my legs tingling. Then the Cobra Roll is a bit slower than the first time around, so you don't get any gray out forces, but the snaps are still similar to the first pass. You then zip through the station and stop on the lift hill for an instant. Then you slowly lower back down to the station, ending the experience. So, what would I rate Invertigo? I would give this coaster a 6 out of 10. This is a very intense coaster. It is one of the most disorienting ones out there between the aggressive Gs, quick snaps, and backwards motion, but I personally don't find it the most comfortable experience even if the headbanging is manageable for much of the ride. I do enjoy this coaster, but it's not one I'll marathon. While touching on the Invertigo, I need to mention the sequel to this ride, the giant inverted Boomerang. It scales up the Invertigo and makes it an even crazier ride. I'll talk about this ride in a future review, but if you love Invertigo, you will really love the giant inverted Boomerang. But if you found Invertigo too much, you may not like this ride. So those are my thoughts on Invertigo at Kings Island. What are your thoughts about this coaster? Do you enjoy the intensity? Or do you find it a bit much to handle? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.